Does this angle make me look like I have less of a double chin? Maybe not. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm bringing you the finale for my Pan Those Eyeshadows project, Pan. So it's been 2 months, I think, since my last update, and though I have managed to hit Pan on one additional eyeshadow, I have not really used these shadows very much. I've put them a bit on the back burner so I could focus on other shadows, including those in my Lips versus Eyes series, which I'll have linked up here, or is it up here? Wherever it is, it's linked up in here. And also those I have been using for my Dude You Panned My Battleship game that I've been playing with Jalon over on Instagram. And I'll have Jalon's details down in the description box below. So these shadows have very much been put on the back burner, and I do also think some of that is because I got to this point where I was using them so much and I didn't have any you know, backup plan, I guess, in relation to them. It was essentially just hit pan, roll them out, which is something I'm considering for next year, because yes, I will be doing this project again in 2021. So I think next year I will change up the structure slightly so that things roll out a bit more. So first off, let me show you where I ended up with the shadows that I did have in this project. Then we'll have a quick discussion about how I did over the year as a whole. Then we'll wrap this baby up, put it in a little box, and be done with it for 2020. So let's start with the shade I used the least amount of times, and that was from my Revolution Alexis palette. And the shade I was working on in this palette was this blue over here. And let me find a different way to hold this up. Here we go. So it was this blue over here, and I only used it twice the whole time this was in the project. So that was definitely a bit of a fail, and I actually felt like I tend to forget that I had this item in the project. It's a very, very bright blue, and let me give you a swatch, because that would be the smart thing to do now, wouldn't it? So this is it here. It's definitely a very bright blue, something a bit different than all the other shadows I had in this project and other projects, but hopefully in the coming year or so I'll be able to pull this in for something else and get some better use out of it. Next up are the two shades I was using in my Kat Von D Metal Matte Palette. So we'll start with Velvet, which is this shade just here. And I have not used this at all since the last update either. So overall, I actually used this 27 times, and if I get in close enough, so you can see there is a tiny little dip in there, but really, like, look at that. That's nothing. Like 27 uses. There was no way I was anywhere near hitting pan in that shadow. Then if I move down a bit further, we have Oak, and this was the other shadow I was working on in this project. And I used this one 37 times. So as you can see, there is a bit of a bigger dip than we had in Velvet. But in saying that, it is still not that close to hitting pan, I don't think. I did enjoy these shadows. I will say I did mention it a few times that I felt Velvet didn't look as I thought it would compared to what it looks like in the pan, but overall I do enjoy this palette and these shadows as a whole. So I was happy to have it in my project, but this was definitely one of the shadows that made me reconsider the structure of my Pan Those eyeshadows in the future. Now onto the shadow that I did hit pan in, and that comes from my Revolution 144 eyeshadow palette 2018 collection. As you can see, I broke the lid off this, but I was working on this shade up here, this brown shade, and I used this an extra 2 times before I hit pan since my last update, with a total of 35 uses. So it took me 35 uses to hit that tiny pan. It did not take me that long to hit pan in some of the other shades I hit pan in this palette, but I do see that there is a difference between some of the shimmer shades and some of the matte shades and how long it takes to hit pan. But yes, that took me 35 uses. And I've just realized I have forgotten to give you swatches for the last 2 palettes. So let me just do that now. This is a swatch of the 4 shades I was using. This was the one from the Alexis Stone. This is Velvet, and see how in the palette, let me pull up the palette again. I feel like it looks really maroon, but then when you swatch it out, it's a lot darker. Like, you can still see there is the burgundy maroon tint to it, but overall it comes out more like a plum brown, I guess is the way to explain it. I feel like it has a lot more brown or black in it than it does purple or plum or burgundy. This is Oak, and this is the brown from the Revolution 144 palette. So these are finally moving out of this project. Unfortunately, it is because it's the finale, but I'm happy to get them out, and I'm happy to have hit pan in one more shade before we finished up. So quick recap of what we managed to do this year. So including the shade that I just hit pan on, I managed to hit pan on 9 additional shades in my collection. Currently, I haven't been doing any stats. I don't do pan percentages, etc., within my collection, etc., etc. However, that is something that I am considering for 2021. So if you're interested in hearing all the stats, let me know down in the comments, and I'll make sure that I do include those when I introduce my new project at the beginning of January. Anyway, I guess that really is all I've got for you today. So I'm Verity. That was the finale for my Pan Those Eyeshadows project pan. And now to the outro.